Hello and welcome to a new episode of Silly Point. Today we'll discuss a slightly different topic away from our usual player comparisons and combined 11s and match previews, reviews. This is more of a theoretical discussion on the evolution of T20 cricket. Recently, I think Virat Kohli made a few comments about how he thinks that the Indian team will and needs to play a more aggressive brand of cricket where they won't focus on preserving wickets but just try and score runs. So that got us thinking as to how the game has evolved. The T20 game, over the past 15, 16 years since its inception, and how different teams have started to deploy different strategies, and how that's kind of changed, and how what the impact of league cricket and things like that have also had on different teams, and how important the usage of data is as well in the modern game.
Yeah.
So I've got G here with me.
Hello.
Gee, how'd you like to start? Do we start maybe going back in time and seeing how T20 cricket
Yeah,
used to be?
yeah, I agree. I mean, uh, it started in 2003, right? I think the first T20
Yeah,
game ever was
2006
played
was the
in
first international T20, I think, right?
2005, I think was the first
Yeah,
international. Yeah, but 2003 was the first T20 team played here in the UK.
right.
Um,
I mean,
and
just I mean, in Pakistan, T20 cricket has been there since like forever, but yeah, officially, I think it came into being,
yeah,
officially got recognized, I think, in
in 2003.
yeah,
Yeah. But I guess at that point it was a new format.
yeah,
You could probably draw parallels to the T10 format that we have now, or even to the 100, which will be played in the UK in the summer. So you could draw parallels there. Um, but I think they're still in a better position than T20 was. And that's just because of how T20s evolved, right? So
yeah.
there are now strategies for T10 cricket, there are strategies for 100. It's going to be in a much better position, much
Yeah,
quicker as compared to T20.
I
Right?
agree.
T20s didn't pick up until India won the T20 World Cup. Up
Yeah,
until that, it was a bit of a hit and giggle format. Players weren't quite interested in playing. The likes of Tendulkar, Ponting, they were like, okay, fine, it's a new format, fair enough, but it's not actual cricket.
yeah.
From that point onwards, from India winning the T20 World Cup, the advent of the IPL.
Yeah, I think the leagues have
And
had a bigger impact than the World Cup, I think.
yeah. I mean, there are two things around that, right? Obviously, with the leagues, you get to play so many matches. So players
Yeah,
get, experiences under different conditions, playing with different players, playing under different management,
yeah,
coaches, different strategies. So there's that advantage. And then the other advantage is, with the volume of matches that are being
yeah,
played, you've got so much data,
yeah, exactly.
right? And data can help you strategize. So
Yeah,
I think that's basically been the evolution, over the last 15 to 17 years. Is it
mm,
was considered hit and giggle.
yeah,
Then India won the T20 World Cup, the first one. Things took off from there with domestic leagues,
yeah,
which meant domestic leagues in every country. Some
yeah,
countries have 2 to 3, 4, 5 even domestic leagues. So a lot more data, a lot more experience, which allows you to strategize more.
yeah. I also think initially, in the initial years, I think T20 it was sort of a spin-off of ODI cricket, where people looked at it as a shorter form of ODIs. And when I say that, I mean scores. You'd win toss, you'd bat first, you'd post 150, 160,
Yeah,
and defend that, and more often than not you'd win. I mean, I remember for the longest time, except for that obviously Pakistan Australia semi-final in 2010,
yeah,
Pakistan used to win the toss, bat first, score 155, limp up to whatever 160,
yeah,
and then defend that with Ajmal and Afridi.
yeah.
But that dynamic has completely changed now. If you bat first, if
Agreed.
you don't get 180, 190, then it's you know
Yeah,
you're not going to win it. And now every team, I think 90% of the time, the team that wins the toss bat bowls first. They always
yeah.
chase.
True. Yeah. I guess that if you look at the two extremes in terms of formats, you've got Test cricket where you've got ample time, right? Even
Yeah.
if you don't have, you've got ample time to test out Plan A,
Hmm.
right? You can do Plan A for 10 overs and then change to Plan B. You've got breaks in between to go back and talk to your
Yeah.
coaches and your team management and figure out a new approach, right? There's lots of time to develop strategies
Yeah.
and build stuff. in a T20, every ball is an event, right? So
Yeah.
you have to go pre-planned. You have to have plan A, B, C, D, E, right? And that's kind of, down to the pace of the game.
Yeah.
And that's again help people strategize.
Yeah.
So I think there's that fundamental difference as well. And you're completely right. With the scores, average scores probably in the first 10 years of T20 cricket were like 150,
Yeah.
right? Whereas now it's inching more towards 170, 180,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's just down to you know some ridiculous batsmen,
Yeah.
the likes of AB de Villiers and Andre Russell and Glenn Maxwell, who have changed T20 batting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, yeah, I mean, again, if you compare it to the one day format, I think one day format has had its scoring run peak and now it's on the way down where I think you see 280, 290, 300 again being the norm rather than 360, 370.
Yeah,
Whereas T20s now every league you see, like even in the PSL where usually it's more bowler dominated, and in the past years we've seen the 140s and the 150s winning you games.
yeah,
You had 190 being chased down what 3-4 times,
yeah.
especially in a Pakistani league where Pakistan are notorious for being horrible chasers anyway.
True.
To chase down 200
Yeah,
almost and pretty easily. It wasn't like the games went to the last ball or there were thrillers. A lot of the games were finished with like an over to spare.
yeah,
So I think that evolution as well,
yeah,
has just become like a world thing now where
yeah.
you chase,
I
and even
mean,
if it's 200, and even if you lose early, because I think that's also the other thing. I think that
yeah,
also has made a big difference, and I think that's something that maybe New Zealand or England get the credit for. I think because they have really introduced this brand of cricket where even if you're 30 for 3 in 5 overs, you don't stop hitting, and
they go after. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, we can talk about that when we come to like the batting strategies that
yeah,
teams are using. But I just wanted to make a quick point on, how conditions, pitch conditions and probably ground dimensions also have a big impact on your team selection
yeah,
and on how you strategize for a game.
yeah,
So in a country like New Zealand, where your straight boundaries are so short,
yeah,
right? You're going to have bowlers who can bowl short,
yeah,
yeah, who can bowl kind of short of good length or good length,
yeah,
right? And don't pitch the ball up as often, and,
yeah,
and try and force batsmen to hit square of the wicket.
yeah.
So that comes
And
that
also,
comes into
yeah,
play.
and also
And
to that point, right? And also, how captains choose who to bowl when. Like if you
yeah,
have
yeah,
if your mid wicket boundary is short, right,
yeah,
and you have an off spinner bowling, you would not bowl an off spinner to a right hander
right
with on
hander,
that,
true. Yeah,
because
yeah,
they know that they can slog sweep you for six. So they'll have to plan it in a way where the spinner is bowling from the other end. But then the batsmen try and like double bluff and they go with a left hand right hand combination to try and
yeah,
counter that. So it's become very strategic and thinking of not just how to bowl, but
yeah.
when to bowl.
And this is why the captain in a T20 game is so important. In my opinion, he's a captain in a T20 game has significantly much bigger role to play than in tests and ODIs, right?
Yeah.
Because the captain needs to go into the game with lots and lots of strategies, and then obviously, he has to decide what to use when.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's especially from a captaincy and a bowling point of view, it's very important. And you've also seen obviously the wide Yorkers, in the death overs becoming very very common now, and you have to
yeah,
have a field, making sure that you have the third man in the right place. The point is in the right place.
yeah,
So the batsmen have also tried. Well, the bowlers have tried to evolve in a way, and it's very important now where you need to have a plan with the captain as a bowler
yeah,
to
true.
agree this is what I'm going to bowl and this is the field that I need. You can't be risking it,
Yeah,
having four men up on the offside and then bowling it wide, wide outside off stump, and then
I
so
agree.
so you need to have that plan where you see a lot of the times actually in the death overs. It's
Yeah,
very surprising. You've never seen that in 10 years ago,
yeah,
where you actually have either mid off or mid on. Well, mid off usually is up,
yeah.
which is you never used to have in say
Yeah, I mean,
10 years ago.
if you play, if you play kind of club cricket in the UK, for example,
Yeah,
which we have,
yeah,
in the death, you're gonna have fine leg third man back at the boundary and long off, long on, and they'd ask you to pitch the ball up.
yeah,
That's kind of the
exactly.
standard template, but obviously T20 has turned it on its head.
Yeah,
Depending on pitch and conditions, you go for wide yorkers or you go for into the wicket short balls
yeah,
like
slower
England did,
bouncers. Yeah,
like England did against India,
yeah,
where they kept the ball, kind of short of good
yeah,
length
I
and
agree.
didn't pitch anything up, and then that made it difficult for India to, score runs in the death.
yeah,
So I think, yeah, I think the captain has a big part to play. And I was going to give the example of someone like Rohit Sharma
yeah,
for Mumbai Indians in the IPL. He is that kind of captain. He goes in with multiple strategies,
yeah,
and then he has all the empowerment from the team management
yeah.
to pick. Okay, fine, you pick this strategy and stick to it, or you pick this one, or you pick this one, or whatever it is. So I really enjoy seeing Mumbai Indians games and how they go about their strategy, and how they build a bowling innings, or how they build a batting innings for that
Yeah.
matter.
Unlike your best friend who has one strategy. Bumrah will bowl overs number one
Yeah,
and three and 17 and
exactly.
19.
Exactly. And that works sometimes.
Yeah,
Most of the times it won't work, right?
yeah,
I mean, and that's a good segue into kind of the batting strategies that we're
yeah,
seeing nowadays, right? I mean, yes, Virat Kohli came out just before the first T20 between India and England and said that we're now going to play a more aggressive brand of cricket, and I completely agree with that,
yeah,
right? If you go back in time, kind of
yeah,
4 years, 5 years, to the T20 World Cup in 2016, the semi-final game between India and West Indies at the Wankhede, right? That is the perfect example of how batting strategy has changed in the last
exactly.
couple of years. India, right? They had MS Dhoni, Ajinkya Rahane, and Virat Kohli out in the middle, right? And they were just herring singles between the wickets, right?
Yeah,
And there was so much praise from the commentators that no dot balls, a very good running between the wickets, superb. India scored
yeah,
192, right? But what they didn't fail to understand is the fact that West Indies already thought that 200 is a pass score. So if
yeah,
we restrict India to anything below that, we won the game.
yeah.
you know
And
a lot of people think West Indies is just a team of six hitters, right?
yeah,
They've got raw talent and they're good at that. No, they've actually planned that they
yeah,
are going to play their game this way,
yeah,
right? They knew that, okay, fine, um, if in an over, they play out three dot balls, but then they hit two fours,
yeah.
that's 8 runs and over. Who needs to run?
Yeah, and with Pollard and Russell and Gale and Brathwaite at the time as well, they had that firepower where they could afford to do that.
Yeah,
And that's also kind of what's also happening now in the modern game as well, where I think it was just there were some experts discussing on TV where they mentioned Josh Butler is now trying to do the same thing, where he doesn't care that, okay, even if because he's opening the batting,
yeah,
if he
yeah.
plays a few dot balls, he will
Doesn't
target a few
matter.
bowlers. He'll be like, okay, there'll
Yeah.
be this new bowler coming in. I'll target him and I'll hit him for 20, and I'll cover up my dot balls.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
completely agree. I mean, that's the way to go, right? You could credit the West Indies, Chris Gale,
yeah,
those kinds of players into developing this kind of thinking, and it works,
yeah,
right? In T20s, you got 120 balls, right?
yeah,
Even if you like score runs of 60 balls, if you score boundaries of 60 balls, you can easily get up to a score of 180,
yeah, exactly.
without much
Yeah,
trouble. If
yeah,
you score of 60 deliveries and leave the other 60 deliveries as dots, you can still get up to a score of 180 easily.
exactly,
A-
exactly.
and
Yeah,
that's how I think that's how teams are now thinking. So even England, for example, you've got Roy and Bairstow and Butler. It doesn't matter to them, right? They'll
yeah,
play their shots.
yeah,
They'll play slower value on their wickets. They'll get out no problem because they know Morgan and Stokes and Butler and Moeen Ali, Sam Curran, all these guys can hit the ball out
yeah,
of the park. It doesn't matter to them.
yeah. I agree. I completely agree. And that's why I think it's become very exciting, as if from a fan's perspective, although maybe not
Yeah,
from a bowler's perspective. Although we've discussed how bowlers have had to obviously try and adapt to the change.
yeah.
But
I
also, I
mean,
think
just sorry, just one other thing on the batting side of things. I mean, yes, okay, fine. You've got to hit sixes. You've got to
yeah,
play as few dot balls as possible and whatnot. But you've also got to think about you know where the batsmen are going to
yeah,
be most effective, right?
yeah,
So I know we talk about Chris Gale. He's been brilliant as an opener, right?
yeah,
But I think Kings 11
yeah,
Punjab in the last IPL have batted him at number 3, and I
yeah,
think they've unearthed a new strategy there, right?
yeah,
Chris Gale is a very good player of spin,
yeah,
and he can go bang bang against spin from ball one, unlike I think against pace where he takes some time to settle in,
yeah,
right? So again, just by moving him to number 3, number 4 in the batting
mm,
lineup, Kings 11 Punjab want to maximize that kind of
yeah,
period where spinners bowl, and they can score at an economy of 9, 10 runs and over.
yeah. similar to what we discussed for Johnny Bairstow, having kind of
Yeah,
moved him to the
exactly.
middle order.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, just as an example, Chris Gale over the last over the last couple of years across all T20s. Actually, no, this ever since he started playing, he's averaging 53 and striking at 170 against spin in the middle overs. Those are some
yeah,
crazy numbers,
yeah,
right? So you see how teams are thinking now. They're not only thinking about, okay, go bang bang,
yeah.
right? They're also thinking about, okay, where's the batsman best placed?
Yeah, just like the bowlers have to think, or just like the captain has to think when which bowler is going to bowl when, or
Yeah,
for which end. I think it's the same for the batsmen now as well, where you have to utilize their skills to the max. And
yeah,
also, I mean, we were discussing how it's about obviously big hitting and stuff,
yeah,
but there's a couple. I mean, there's been a lot of innovation. I mean, Rishabh Pant's reverse sweeping,
yeah.
for six and stuff. That's I mean, you can I guess credit AB de Villiers for bringing that in, where people, it's that fearless brand of batting,
Yeah,
but also there is still room for players like David Milan, or Babar Azam,
I
who
agree. Yeah,
have decent. I mean, Babar's strike rate has improved recently, but Milan's strike rate, his strike rate, it's pretty good, and who can they don't hit big sixes, but they hit fours regularly, so they'll hit
yeah,
two, three, fours, and when by that logic, they'll still have decent strike rates, and they'll score
yeah.
a 70 or an 80, and get you, especially when you have the players around you can hit. Okay, you
I
probably
agree.
don't want two players at the same time batting, with that kind of approach.
Yeah,
But there is still room for a semi-anchor role
I
in T20.
I kind of agree that there probably is room for that in T20s, but over the next 5 years, these batsmen will become obsolete. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
true.
If you don't adapt, if you don't get better at your boundary striking, I think you're going to lose out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I
Over
mean,
time, yeah,
in the batting scheme of things, I feel like there's only one way to go. But when we come to the bowling, I think
yeah,
you can go a couple of ways. That's
yeah.
my
Of
opinion.
course, I agree. I agree
Um,
with that. I agree with that.
that's my opinion. I
Yeah,
mean, and that's kind of a nice segue into the bowling. Sorry, actually, before we talk about bowling, just one other good example of how teams are now using a lot of data. If you look at Sunil Narayan, right,
yeah,
he's got a very high, balls per boundary ratio.
yeah,
Sorry, very low balls per boundary ratio, I should say. And that kind of made teams think about, okay, fine, where's the best place to use him.
exactly.
And then I think it was the Brisbane Heat, in the Big Bash League, that decided to open with him. And
Yeah,
then he's never looked back. Even if he plays like a couple of overs,
yeah,
in the power play, and he scores like 30 runs of 12 balls, he's done his job.
yeah,
20 runs of 10 balls, he's done his job,
yeah.
right?
I agree.
Again, there's a shift in that, with him being found out against high quality pace bowling. So now KKR have said, okay, fine, if he's not opening, let's bat him at 3 or 4, because he can hit
Yeah, he
spin
can
out
hit
of
the
the ground.
spinners. Yeah,
So you see how
yeah,
teams are changing their strategy,
yeah.
to
No,
make best use of their resources.
no. That's yeah. I mean, and it's again that'll keep evolving. I mean, that's the fun of T20 cricket. I think
Yeah,
all the new strategies and how teams evolve. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves in the next 5 years. Maybe we're looking at 230, 240 being the norm.
yeah.
It's a bowler's graveyard.
Yeah, I agree. Although there is still, you know, bowlers have bowlers have innovated. Wide
Yeah,
Yorkers, knuckleballs,
yeah,
slow ball bouncers. Those kind of deliveries have obviously come into vogue.
mm,
And like I said, I think with the batting, there's only one way to go,
yeah,
boundary hitting. But
yeah,
I think with bowlers, you can probably go two ways, right? You can either pick bowlers who are defensive,
yeah,
right, i.e., who'd not take as many wickets, but they'd keep the economy down.
yeah. 160 for two is a very good score for a bowling team in T20s, right?
Exactly. So you could pick players who will give you a good economy.
Yeah,
So the best example that comes to mind is someone like Mohammad Amir. Over
yeah,
the last couple of years, he's kind of developed himself into a defensive bowler.
yeah,
Not so much a wicket-taking bowler, but he'll bowl those hard lengths in the power play and middle overs,
yeah,
and he'll keep the runs down,
yeah. I agree.
right?
Yeah,
Or maybe even someone like a um, Josh Hazelwood, who's
yeah,
who's got a very good power play economy,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and,
And then you've got to allay that along with guys who can take wickets,
yeah.
right? You're more of your attacking bowlers.
Yeah, the leg
You know,
spinners or the fast, 140,
uh,
145 plus two
exactly.
bowlers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think two things that you definitely need to have in a bowling team is a bowler who can bowl 140, at least
yeah,
one bowler who can bowl 140 plus, and one attacking leg spinner, right?
yeah,
Those are absolute musts in every T20 team.
yeah.
And if
I
you look at
agree.
the most successful teams, they have that, they have these two components,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Bowlers win you matches, bowlers win you tournaments. That's the bottom line. So if you've
Agreed.
got these two types of bowlers, you're more than likely to have
Yeah,
an advantage over other teams. So the likes of Chahal, Adil Rashid, Rashid Khan, they're all leg
yeah.
spinners,
Of
and they
course,
come.
how can we not mention Rashid Khan in a T20
Yeah, of
episode?
course, yeah. So
Yeah,
and then on the flip side, your fast bowlers, you've got
yeah,
Jofra Archer,
Archer.
Bumrah, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Hassan Ali, all these guys. They're fast bowlers, they're
Yeah,
attacking.
yeah. I agree. I agree. So yeah, it's a good balance, good debate to have.
The thing is that it's very difficult to kind of have players of
Yeah,
these skill sets, right? Not every team can afford to have an attacking leg spinner, a fast
yeah.
bowler, left
Well, you
armor.
have to go with the best that you have, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
So,
just
so
pump in an average leg spinner just because he's a leg spinner.
exactly. And if people viewed our previous episode where we picked a combined England India T20 11, that was the absolute perfect T20 team.
Yeah,
If you think about it, we had all types of bowlers. We had attacking fast bowlers, we had
yeah,
holding spinners, we had power play specialists, death bowling specialists,
yeah.
right? And our batting was just bang, bang, bang from start to end.
Exactly.
Um, so in
Yeah,
years to come, when people will look back at T20, they look at the two of us and they look at these two episodes and they'll say these guys were right.
yeah, yeah. We picked up the trends. We identified them.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I guess they have been identified, but then to put it all together,
put it all together and what it
um,
actually looks like.
what it actually looks
In
like. The one thing that we haven't discussed is fielding, and I think the level of fielding has improved significantly along with the evolution of T20. I mean, some of the
yeah.
boundary catches, the boundary catches and stops that we're seeing are just
I think that
phenomenal.
I think the catch at the boundary and flicking it back to the other person is to the
Yeah.
other fielder has become so common now that it's considered like standard practice nowadays.
Exactly. I mean, players are actually practicing that in their practice
Exactly.
sessions. So that's incredible. And the other thing is that, you know, I don't think that you can now have players who are not fit enough or who are not good fielders. Every single
Yeah.
player that you pick, I think they have to be amazing fielders,
Yeah. And
right?
again,
Because every run matters and every ball matters.
yeah, and again, it's similar to the batting and bowling discussion we had. It's also about having the right fielders in the right positions.
Agreed. Yeah,
The
yeah,
boundary riders, the infielders, the people with
yeah,
stronger
yeah.
throwing arms. So you have to always have that balance.
I agree. I agree. I mean, yes, you've got to have good slip fielders,
Yeah,
right? And you've also got to have fielders who are good boundary riders, who are good at ground fielding, who've got fantastic arm. I mean, the likes of Ravindra Jadeja, Ben Stokes, Glenn Maxwell, they're fantastic all round. It's
yeah,
great to have players like this, but then sorry, you can also go down the route of super specializing and
yeah,
saying, okay, fine, I'm going to be an infielder.
yeah,
I'll cut off the ones, or you could say, okay, fine, I'll be a boundary rider and focus on
yeah,
taking those high catches.
yeah,
So you can specialize as well in
yeah,
fielding.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think you can have a liability in the field.
No, no, not
You
anymore.
can't
Especially in
you can't
T20s, no
have
chance.
yeah, you can't have a player like Inzamam, for example, of the yesteryears,
Yeah,
or even someone like a Sehwag, for example,
yeah,
that you have to hide in the field.
yeah,
You can't have that in
yeah.
T20s.
Especially when any ball can go pretty much anywhere, right? With
Exactly.
360 kind of
Oh yeah,
approach of
yeah,
batsman, you literally
exactly.
can't do that.
Yeah, you can't have liabilities in the field,
Yeah.
basically.
So let us know what you think about that. Do you agree with our thoughts? Do you still think that there is room for a Milan or a Babar Azam type player in T20s, or do you think now it's evolved? Let us know. Let us know what you think. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.